So give people an idea just how essential are China and India's roles when it comes to supporting the global pharmaceutical industry?
Right. For some types of pharmaceuticals, 90% of the active ingredients come from China. And so the shutdown of their factories and the breakdown of their logistical systems really has created a problem. The FDA in the U.S. has done an analysis of all of our pharmaceuticals and identified 20 key pharmaceuticals which may go into shortage and one which probably already has gone into a shortage.
So what sort of reserves do these pharmaceutical companies tend to keep so that they have them sort of on demand as they need them when these high-risk outbreaks happen?
Well, everything now is just-in-time manufacturing, so they really do not keep reserves. It's very expensive. Many of these ingredients have to be climate-controlled or refrigerated, so there really isn't a reserve as far as that goes.
Now, what about the biggest concerns that you see the virus presenting for the industry at the moment?
For the pharmaceutical industry?
Yes.
I mean, in a way, it's an opportunity to speed up the vaccine development process. So that's the opportunity. It took about 20 months for the SARS vaccine to go from identification of the sequence of the virus to the first human testing. This time, it'll be 3 to 4 months. So that's actually very exciting. You know, from the logistical side of pharmaceuticals, you know, there are going to probably be some lost sales, but in the end, they'll bounce back from that. So I don't see this damaging the pharmaceutical industry.
Now, as you mentioned, the shorter time frame for trying to find a vaccine, obviously there's a global race, everyone trying to be the first to hurry up and come out with this. But what sort of patients or treatments then might suffer as a result of this focus on the coronavirus vaccine?
Yeah, so there's a limited amount of money. What do you put it on? Do you put it on the vaccines? Do you invest it in treatments? Do you invest it in non-pharmaceutical treatments? That's the decision that everyone is trying to make. You know, right now, China has over 200 studies on coronavirus treatments. The U.S. is trying to figure out what it's going to do in that area as well. And those decisions will still be made, but it is definitely worth investing in a vaccine because we don't know how long this outbreak is going to last.
And so let's also now talk about the sort of conversations that are being had around price points for any sort of vaccines and treatments.
Yes, yes. So there was a discussion of would it be affordable? Well, one of the CEOs of one of the leading organizations as far as creating vaccines has said that they would price it at the same price as other respiratory vaccines, which is about $250 for an uninsured patient. And you figure for someone who's insured, it would probably be a $25 or $50 copay. So $250 might not be affordable for most people, but the 25 or 50 would be.
And we know that President Trump has really been, before this, was clamping down on pharmaceutical companies, trying to get them to lower their prices. How do these companies then balance that with sort of this need now for this rapid response and this high demand?
Exactly. So they need to recoup their costs. And even if they get money from the NIH or get money from the Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness Innovation, even if they do get that money, they're taking staff off of other jobs, you know, and so they're losing out that way. And so they will need to recoup their cost. And probably it will be a negotiation between, you know, the governments and other major purchasers, WHO, and the pharmaceutical companies as far as the pricing. But there's also the wild card of compulsory licensing. That's a legal tactic that countries used during the HIV epidemic to take on-patent HIV drugs and manufacture them in a generic way.
Now, I do want to also get to this idea of the psychology of what we're seeing, some of this panic. We did see the French government step in to requisition face masks and antibacterial gel because they saw both people and companies starting to hoard these items that health workers and affected patients would actually need. What's your take on the French government's approach?
I think it was a good idea. You know, these items were in short supply. They are needed by health workers. Hand gel is needed by the general public, so I thought it was a good move.
Do you see potentially other governments stepping in to requisition things, perhaps some over-the-counter medicines or other things that are perhaps needed in other parts of the country?
Yes, these are definitely things that government should be stockpiling anyway, but certainly in a time of crisis, if they're not stockpiles, it does make sense to requisition it and make sure that they're properly distributed.
And what are some of the issues that you think we should be keeping an eye on going forward in the pharmaceutical industry if this does continue for more than the few months where they perhaps do have some reserves?
I think the big question now with coronavirus is, are we going to stop it now, or is this going to become an annual event like the flu? Like in a couple of years, will you and I have to get our flu vaccine and our corona vaccine every fall? And hopefully, you know, with you know, a proper vaccine now and proper treatment now, we can stop the outbreaks.
We certainly hope that's the case. Always good to have you. Kate Tulenko there, founder and CEO of Corvus Health.